Alright guys, the game we're watching right now is between a Protoss player and a Terran player. We've got Gianfe as the Protoss, actually known as JF by most of his fans and the people that commentate on him, of course. And his opponent is none other than NsP Fancy, who is actually a Korean programmer from Istro. Now, let me just say a few things about this match. It's actually a game that's come from the match between Team Excello and the Istro team from Korea. Very special match that's set up. It features, obviously, JF in this particular match, and Noni and some of the other people in Excello against some of the people from the Istro clan. And a lot of these Korean programmers belong to one pro gaming team, and they also have like a separate clan. So this particular Terran player is from the NsP clan, but he actually plays professionally for Istro, of course. And JF recently won the TSL, the Razor TSL, which I had a lot of fun watching and commentating during the qualification stage. A lot of you guys will have seen that. Really good time. JF played really well, and a lot of people would argue that he's pretty much the best foreigner right now, and he's got the evidence to support that. He's beaten everybody else that matters, really. He beat Draco. I mean, Draco was a previous programmer over in Korea himself, invited as one of the white programmers, as they like to call them. And yeah, already we've got JF scouting around for Fancy, and Fancy, of course, up the top left on Othello. JF spots him straight away, doesn't actually head around to any of the start locations, so he got a bit lucky there. That's alright. Fancy will have to defend that probe with a SCV there. And just usher it away, make sure he doesn't kill that building SCV, and he'll be back on track. So yeah, really looking forward to this game. It's another nice opportunity to see a top foreigner, and probably our best foreigner, up against a Korean pro. And I mean, I guess Fancy is one of the lesser Korean pros. He's not one of the guys you see on television very much in the Korean television VODs. And JF is the most famous foreigner. So it's kind of like our best versus one of their lesser players, and we'll see how our guy holds up. But of course, I'm rooting for the Terran player, as I always do. Sorry about my bias, but I'm not going to be too apologetic about that. I really like seeing the Terran players dominate. I play Terran myself, of course, and it's just really cool to see some Terran. Well, it's really cool to see the Terran race played very well. I often find it difficult to get all the multitasking and macro management correct with Terran. It can be a bit of an unforgiving race, and it's quite cool to see the pros do everything perfectly. So having a look at Fancy Space, he's getting his factory now. It's a pretty standard Terran opening. He's not doing anything too unusual. We'll probably see him follow up with a few more Marines and go for what's called an FD Terran. That stands for Fake Double. That's where you just build one factory and build a lot of Marines and head out. And it sort of tricks your opponent because they don't have a scout in your base after the point you've got the Marines. You actually kill the probe that's scouting your base, and for all they know, you might be going with two factories and putting out a much more aggressive build, where in fact you are actually just covering for a faster expansion and putting that down. So Fancy has scouted quite late. He has got his SCV over to JF's space, but JF's already got a Dragoon, so Fancy unfortunately will not get a look inside JF's space, will not see what JF's actually doing in terms of his tech, and unfortunately that is a bit of a setback in my opinion. I mean, I see a lot of Terran players scout quite late these days because they like to get their economy rolling perfectly at the beginning, and they want that SCV for mining purposes, but it would have been handy to see what JF's doing. When JF's not setting up for an early expansion at all, Fancy's going to get an expansion a lot quicker than he does. But JF is just roaring ahead in terms of the tech. He's got a robotics facility going down. He may be going 2-gate goon range with observers. But I mean, knowing JF, he'll probably add a robotics support bay in there to go with Reavers, because JF is known for his Reavers. He's good with them. He's confident with a shuttle Reaver play, as a lot of people saw from the TSL, and I'm sure that'll be his strongest card to play against Fancy. So I expect to see that. Now, Fancy is getting ready to put down his expansion. This is what FD Terran is all about. He's got that Vulture out following the tank. He'll have mines upgrading, and he'll be able to put some pressure on Fancy while getting that expansion up. So he's going to put some pressure on JF. Sorry, I mixed the names up. And yeah, Fancy's expansion is going to be really ahead. And JF's putting down that observatory right now. Says to me that he's going to be going for observers first, really to take the pressure off in terms of mines that will stop Fancy from mining his expansion area and generally containing him. But he's building that shuttle as well, which says to me that he is indeed going to be following up that robotic support bay and getting some Reavers. and we'll see how that turns out shortly. So just taking a look down at the probe here, putting down a second building. There it is. There's a robotic support bay, and we've got the observer coming out. So his order here is to get the shuttle, then the observer, then the Reaver, and he'll pick up the Reaver with the shuttle and head over to do some damage. But Fancy's already got things rolling. He's got his base nicely defended with those landed barracks and eBay just in front of his choke and mines in between, so nothing's going to get through there. But JF's plan is not really to bust through that. JF's really happy to just wait and expand a lot later, get his Reaver out, and put some damage, put some harassment in to the main area of the of Fancy's base. Alright, and JF has his observer out, so he'll scatter around the map, see that there's no mines there, and that's when he'll bring his Dragoons around to put the containment in on Fancy, and that's what you see quite often from Terran versus Protoss, when you've got builds that are looking like this at the beginning of the match. Fancy's got a second thing going now. He's cancelled some kind of building. Maybe he put a turret there, decided he didn't like the positioning of it, and maybe cancelled it. He's putting down a second turret over by his natural. This is pretty good. I mean, if Fancy has a couple of turrets down, he keeps his units between his two bases, he should be able to fend this off. And JF's now picking up the Reaver. He's got two Zealots on board. A very, very strong Reaver attack ready to commence. And Fancy's actually picking up his buildings, so that block's not going to be there anymore. Yeah, he's putting them back down again. I would have thought that was a mistake too. Yeah, because now JF is indeed putting the pressure on. He's got plenty of Dragoons, actually just sniping the Marines at the front. They're out of range of the tanks. The tanks are going to have to move in. But the thing is that JF's coming in the back with the shuttle, and Fancy's built a couple of turrets. So the second turret completes. Shuttle's going to go down. Shuttle has been destroyed. The Reaver is actually stranded here, and the tanks are going to be in range with Siege. But JF's actually attacking at the front. Fancy's having to pull the SCVs off the line, and that last tank's going to go down. Scarab goes off. Oh my god! Oh, huge explosion goes off. The Scarab has actually taken out the tank and a bunch of SCVs. So Fancy is not looking in a very comfortable position at all. Even though JF hasn't got a shuttle anymore, he's just blasting the SCVs. SCVs have to evacuate that the vicinity of that mineral line. And oh my god, this Reaver's doing so much damage. Taking out the tank. Reaver's almost destroyed. Desperation here as the SCVs chase after the Reaver to try and take it out. And JF's going to have more units coming into the front already. So this looks really dire for Fancy. Oh my god, he's going to need to move the SCV out of the way. Finally, the Reaver goes down. A single tank comes in to support. JF's got two Dragoons just blasting away at the natural for Fancy, and Fancy's bringing a single tank in. He's going to have to siege up and avoid. Oh my god, he's got three tanks now, so looks like Fancy's going to be able to hold this. Sieges up, the Dragoons retreat, and Fancy's able to go back to work. He's lost a bunch of SCVs and units in that attack, so quite a successful attack by JF, but because JF wasn't able to polish him off, Fancy is very much still in this game, and JF's going for another Reaver. JF is expanding as well. Fancy's still ahead economically. He's got that expansion. He's just going to be able to rebuild a lot of SCVs here, protect his choke. I expect him to maybe put some more turrets down, expecting another attack here from the Reavers. But yeah, looking comfortable again for Fancy. So very good defense there. He kept us cool and managed to just lose the minimum number of SCVs that he needed to, really. Probably could have done that a little bit better, but I mean, when you're under that kind of pressure, it's really hard not to just get totally demolished by those Reavers. And Fancy just trying to push out here. I feel like it's a mistake. He doesn't quite have the tank numbers he needs to push out. So just heading back in now. It took a few SCVs off the line just to block, just in case the Dragoons headed through. Wow, yeah, very intense opening there. That could have been it for Fancy. But just taking a look back, JF's upgrading shuttle speed. Very good auxiliary ability to have if you're going for that shuttle Reaver kind of play. He's got another shuttle in play, and it has got a brand new Reaver. So we'll see if this does any more damage. Fancy obviously knows what JF's strategy is now, so he's got turrets positioned around his base. He's getting ready for this. Yeah, and that shuttle will probably be picking up a Dragoon. There we go. And just looking for an opening in the turrets. JF knows that Fancy's got turrets in strategic locations around his base. He's got that he's got the probe ready to take that third base, putting down a third gateway as well. Just trying to catch up economically, and I feel like he does need to do a bit more damage. And Fancy looks like he's getting ready. Yeah, Fancy's putting down a third command center, looking to seal his economic advantage, pushing out now. Knows that JF has got a slow expansion. He's not going to be able to keep up with that many Dragoons for too long. And we'll see how this works out. JF should be pumping from 3 bases before too long, and he'll have to increase his gateway count. We'll look to see if he does any more damage, because if not, I think that Fancy is actually going to make a huge comeback in this game and really get his macro management going ahead of Fancy's. And Fancy's sending out a vulture there to try and scout for that third base to see whereabouts it is, and if JF is